I was seated in the physician's waiting area when my cellular device rang. It was my sole offspring, Angela. Her vocal tone was peculiar, almost detached, as she declared, "Mother, we're embarking on a European excursion commencing tomorrow. I've already divested your coastal residence and your automobile. The funds were necessitated. Farewell." And she abruptly terminated the connection. 45 years of nurturing her, of personal sacrifice, and she discarded me as if I were refuse. Yet I drew a profound breath and offered a smile, because there was a crucial detail my dear daughter had overlooked. My appellation is Antonia Brooks. I am 71 years of age, and until that precise instant I harboured the conviction that I comprehended my daughter. I had become a widow 6 months prior. My spouse, Robert, had succumbed to a cardiac arrest whilst we were partaking in our morning repast, a ritual we had observed for 45 years. That particular morning he had prepared my coffee with cream and toasted bread. As was his custom, he had bestowed a kiss upon my forehead and uttered, "Good morning, my cherished." Those were his final utterances. Since that juncture, Angela had been more actively involved in my existence, or so my perception led me to believe. She would visit thrice weekly. She assisted with the funerary arrangements and accompanied me to the provisioners. She even advised a medical consultation for a comprehensive physical examination. "Mother, you must attend to your well-being with greater diligence now that you are solitary," she would remark, accompanied by that smile which I once mistook for affection, but now recognized as being for expedience. The beach house had served as our haven for numerous years. Robert and I acquired it when Angela was 15, a testament to considerable diligence and personal sacrifice. Each summer we would retreat there, forging memories, commemorating birthdays and holidays. Angela would bring her companions and subsequently her husband, Edward. I would prepare meals for all, manage the household and attend to the laundry. It was our cherished family tradition. I never fathomed she would perceive it solely in terms of monetary value. And the vehicle, that venerable Ford pickup truck, which Robert cherished as if it were a member of the family. He would meticulously clean it every Sunday, diligently change the motor oil, and invariably park it in its designated spot beneath the dappled shade of the tree. Angela was aware of the profound significance that truck held for me. It represented the final tangible memento of him. His distinctive aroma still permeated the upholstery. As she disconnected the coal, I remained seated on that uncomfortably rigid Viridian plastic chair, surrounded by fellow invalids, and for the initial instance in many months I did not weep. A peculiar internal transformation occurred, a serenity I had not experienced since Robert's passing. For at that moment I recalled something I had entirely neglected. 3 days preceding his demise, Robert had presented me with a manila envelope. "Antonia, place this within your dresser drawer. Should anything befall me, peruse it after a suitable interval, but only when you feel prepared." I had set it aside with minimal contemplation. Post-funeral, overwhelmed by profound sorrow and a multitude of responsibilities, I had simply forgotten. But it was there, awaiting me at home. The nurse summoned me to enter the consultation room. The physician conducted my examination and declared me to be in robust health for my advanced years, advising only that I needed more rest and a more nutritious diet. I offered a nod and a smile, but my thoughts were elsewhere. I was contemplating that envelope, the chilling tone of Angela's voice, and the distinct possibility that Edward was orchestrating this entire affair. He had consistently displayed a palpable aversion to me, viewing me as a perpetual inconvenience. I departed the physician's office and proceeded at a measured pace towards the public transportation stop. I no longer possessed a vehicle, according to Angela's assertion. Yet, as I awaited the bus, an unbidden smile touched my lips. There was an undeniable poetic quality to the unfolding events. My daughter believed she had left me utterly bereft. However, what she failed to grasp was that Robert, my beloved Robert, had invariably been a man who meticulously planned for the future. The bus arrived and I secured a window seat. I observed the urban landscape transiting past, the residences, the commercial establishments, individuals in a perpetual state of haste, each burdened by their own personal tribulations, their own hidden truths. I too possessed my own clandestine narratives, and I was on the cusp of uncovering them. Upon my return to my domicile, I proceeded directly to my private chamber. I opened the dresser drawer, and there, precisely as I had placed it, lay the manila envelope. My hands exhibited a slight tremor as I retrieved it. I could discern the presence of several documents within its confines. Robert had inscribed my name on the exterior in his characteristic elegant script. I settled myself upon the bed, the very one we had shared for such an extended duration, and inhaled deeply. The external light was beginning to wane, and the dwelling was gradually being enveloped by those familiar shadows that no longer instilled apprehension within me. I opened the envelope with deliberate slowness, akin to the unveiling of a birthday gift. What I discovered within its confines was destined to precipitate a profound transformation. The contents of that envelope quite literally stole my breath. It contained official legal instruments, property deeds, banking certificates, and a personal letter penned by Robert. My vision became obscured by tears as I perused his familiar handwriting. My dearest Antonia, if you are perusing these lines, it signifies my absence from your life. Pray forgive me for withholding certain truths during my tenure on this earth, but my intention was to shield you from undue anxieties. Over the intervening years, I judiciously allocated our accumulated savings into diverse properties and commercial ventures. Our assets extend far beyond the confines of the beach house. We possess an additional 6 properties, including the apartment complex where Angela and Edward reside. Furthermore, we hold equity in 3 distinct enterprises, whose valuations are beyond your immediate comprehension. You are, my love, a woman of considerable wealth. You have always been affluent, though this is now formally documented. My fingers, still trembling, sifted through the official documentation. There were deeds for residences situated in various city sectors, a condominium in the downtown core, a modest coastal establishment offering lodging, and, indeed, the imposing 20-story residential edifice where my daughter resided. Robert had been the discreet proprietor for the past decade, but all assets had been vested in a corporate entity unknown to me, and, according to the authenticated documents, I was the sole inheritor of this corporate entity. Accompanying these were bank statements for accounts I had no prior knowledge of, displaying figures that seemed almost fantastical. Robert had dedicated 40 years of his life as a bus operator, but it transpired that he had also possessed a remarkable acumen for investment. Every cent we had meticulously saved, every sacrifice we had endured, he had silently augmented, and I remained entirely oblivious. In his epistle, Robert elaborated that he had maintained this entire financial portfolio in secrecy to prevent me from experiencing pecuniary concerns, and furthermore to prevent Angela from becoming privy to our true financial standing. You comprehend our daughter Antonia, he had written, if she were cognizant of our substantial fortune, her demeanour would undoubtedly undergo a transformation. My earnest desire is that she cherish us for our intrinsic selves, not for our material possessions. What an exquisite irony! Our daughter had departed under the presumption that we possessed nothing, when in reality we had everything. That night sleep proved elusive. I wandered through the residence, my fingertips tracing the contours of the aged furnishings and decorative trinkets. that Angela had consistently criticized as being outdated. I gazed upon the familial portraits adorning the walls, particularly one depicting her at the tender age of 5, nestled upon Robert's lap, her laughter echoing through the captured moment. Where had that sweet, innocent child vanished? At what point did she transmute into someone so cold, so calculating? The following morning, at an early hour, the telephone rang. It was Angela once more. Her voice possessed a different timbre, softer, yet I had by then cultivated a healthy skepticism towards such shifts in vocal cadence. "Mother, how are you? I wish to inform you that we have already processed the transfer of funds from the sale of the house and the car. Your portion has been credited to your account. It is not substantial, but it will sustain you for several months while you seek more modest accommodation." "My portion?" I inquired, modulating my voice to a semblance of calm. "Yes, Mother, it was certainly not our intention to leave you entirely without resources. We have allocated 30% to you. That is equitable, is it not? We require the funds for our investment venture in Europe. Edward has an extraordinary business prospect there. 30% of my own possessions. How remarkably generous. I see. My dear, and when do you depart?" "This afternoon. Our luggage is already packed. We shall be absent for a minimum of 6 months, potentially longer, contingent upon the success of the business. However, do not concern yourself, Mother. Upon our return, we shall assist you in locating a smaller dwelling, something that aligns with your requirements." "Aligns with my requirements?" As though she possessed any insight into my actual needs. "Very well, Angela. Travel safely." "Oh, Mother, I knew you would be understanding. You have always exhibited such profound compassion. We cherish you immensely." And then she terminated the call. I remained standing, the receiver in my hand. And for the first instance in many months I erupted into laughter. I laughed with a heartiness I had not experienced since Robert's passing. The situation was so utterly preposterous. It bordered on the comedic. My daughter had effectively plundered me, evicted me from my own residence, addressed me with an unbearable condescension, all in pursuit of a European escapade that was likely destined for failure. However, what caused me the most distress was not the financial aspect. It was the sheer ease with which she had summarily dismissed me. 45 years of my existence dedicated to her, of profound sacrifice, of unwavering affection, and she had effectively erased me from her life with a 2-minute telephone conversation. That, above all else, was the source of my true anguish. I accessed my bank account online. Indeed, they had deposited an amount that, from their perspective, likely represented a considerable sum, but to me it was a blatant mockery. They had disposed of the beach house for significantly less than its true market value, presumably due to their urgent need for capital, and they had sold Robert's truck for a mere pittance. That afternoon, from my vantage point at the window, I observed Angela and Edward loading their luggage into a waiting taxicab. He was encumbered with 2 substantial suitcases. She possessed a remarkably expensive-looking carry-on bag. I watched them engage in animated conversation, exchange affectionate gestures, and discuss their future plans. They appeared as 2 adolescents, brimming with excitement for an impending adventure. They never once cast a glance towards my window, nor did they offer a farewell. As the taxi departed, I settled myself in the kitchen, a cup of tea in hand, with Robert's meticulously organized documents spread across the table. I was compelled to make certain decisions. I possessed the option of consulting an attorney, reclaiming my properties, and recovering all that they had appropriated. Yet an inner intuition suggested a more judicious and instructive approach. I initiated contact with Mr. Peterson, the legal counsel who had managed Robert's affairs. He had been present at the funeral, had extended his condolences, and had assured me of his availability should I require any assistance. Well, at this juncture, assistance was indeed required. Mrs. Brooks, it is gratifying to hear from you. How are you faring? I am doing well, Mr. Peterson. I require an urgent consultation. I have discovered certain documents pertaining to Robert that I find somewhat perplexing. Certainly, you are welcome to attend my office tomorrow morning. I shall be present. That night, for the first time in many months, I experienced a period of restful slumber. I dreamt of Robert. He was seated in his favoured armchair, engrossed in the Morning Gazette, precisely as he did each dawn, and upon perceiving me, he offered a serene smile and uttered, "It is high time, my love. It is precisely the opportune moment for you to assert your rights." I awoke with an unusual sensation. It was not precisely joy, yet it was also not the profound sorrow that had enveloped me for so many preceding months. It was, in essence, a burgeoning sense of resolve. For the first time since Robert's departure, I possessed a clear and defined objective. I intended to reclaim what was rightfully mine, but not in the manner Angela might anticipate. The subsequent morning I attired myself with a degree of care that surpassed my usual routine. I selected my wine-coloured ensemble, the very dress Robert had often remarked enhanced my elegance. I arranged my coiffure and applied a subtle touch of makeup. And as I met my own reflection in the mirror, I beheld a woman I had not encountered in a considerable span of time. I recognized within that reflection a woman of considerable fortitude. Mr. Peterson's offices were located in the city's central district. It was an establishment of considerable age, yet exuded an air of elegance, boasting marble flooring and expansive windows. He greeted me with a genial smile, but as I presented the documents to him, his expression underwent a palpable transformation. "Mrs. Brooks, this is substantially more than I had anticipated. Robert was an exceptionally astute gentleman. Observe, according to these legal instruments, you are the rightful proprietor of—" "I am aware, Mr. Peterson. I have already reviewed them. My primary concern is to ascertain the legal avenues available to me." Mr. Peterson proceeded to explain that all documentation was in impeccable order, that the instruments were legally binding, and that I was indeed the rightful owner of all the aforementioned properties. He also confirmed a suspicion I had already harboured. The sale of the beach house was legally invalid, as Angela lacked the requisite authority to effectuate such a transaction. "We can secure the immediate return of the house, Mrs. Brooks, and we can also initiate legal proceedings against your daughter for fraudulent conduct." "No, Mr. Peterson, I have no intention of pursuing legal action. I prefer to approach this matter through an alternative methodology. I wish for the entirety of this to remain undisclosed, at least for the present time. Can you facilitate this for me?" He regarded me with an expression of keen curiosity, yet he offered a nod. "Indeed, you are my client. What are your specific requirements?" "I require you to discreetly orchestrate the repossession of the beach house, take all necessary measures to invalidate that fraudulent transaction, and furthermore, I require your assistance in securing direct custodianship of all my properties, with particular emphasis on the edifice housing my daughter's residence. I comprehend. This will necessitate a process spanning several weeks, but it is entirely achievable." "Excellent. And Mr. Peterson, I must insist that no individual becomes aware of my direct involvement in this endeavour, at least for the foreseeable future." Upon departing his establishment, I experienced a sensation akin to awakening from an extended period of somnolence. I traversed the thoroughfares of the downtown district, observing the passers-by, the architectural structures, the ceaseless flow of life unfolding with an outward appearance of normalcy. Yet for me, everything had undergone a fundamental alteration. I was now operating with a meticulously formulated plan. The ensuing weeks proved to be the most peculiar of my existence. Officially, I was perceived as a widow of limited means, abandoned by her daughter. However, in clandestine fashion, I was a woman of considerable affluence, orchestrating the discreet reclamation of my assets. Mr. Peterson executed his duties with remarkable efficiency, providing me with regular updates via telephone regarding the progress of the legal proceedings. I elected to remain in my existing residence for the interim. It was, after all, unequivocally mine, though Angela likely envisioned my relocation to a humble rented room. Each morning I would commence my day with breakfast at the very table where Robert and I had shared so many years of our lives, followed by a leisurely perambulation through the neighbourhood. The local residents would extend their greetings, a peculiar blend of commiseration and intrigue reserved for those recently bereaved. Aurora, my lifelong neighbour, approached me one afternoon as I was tending to the botanical specimens in my front garden. "Antonia, my dear, is it indeed true that Angela has journeyed to Europe, leaving you entirely to your own devices?" "Yes, Aurora, she has departed with Edward. They are pursuing business interests overseas." "And how do you intend to sustain yourself, my darling? We are all aware that Robert did not leave a substantial financial inheritance." "If only you knew," I mused internally. "Do not concern yourself, Aurora. I shall manage admirably. Do you require any assistance? I can readily bring you provisions or accompany you on your grocery excursions." "You are most kind, but I am in truth quite capable of managing." Aurora regarded me with an expression that was intimately familiar. It mirrored the very same look I had received in the aftermath of the funeral. Compassion intermingled with a subtle undercurrent of relief that the misfortune had not befallen her. "Well, you are aware of my whereabouts, should you require anything." These exchanges, marked by a pervasive tone of gentle concern, became a recurring feature of my days. The purveyor of meats, the baker, the proprietress of the corner emporium. Each addressed me with that hushed intonation typically reserved for individuals experiencing hardship, and I would respond with a nod, a smile, and expressions of gratitude for their solicitude. Yet internally, a part of me derived a certain satisfaction from this orchestrated charade. It felt akin to leading a bifurcated existence. Mr. Peterson contacted me one Wednesday morning. "Mrs. Brooks, I bring you welcome tidings. I have succeeded in nullifying the sale of the beach house. The purchasers, unaware of the fraudulent nature of the transaction, have been duly reimbursed without incident. The property is once again yours." "Excellent, Mr. Peterson, and the edifice housing Angela's residence. That particular acquisition presents a more intricate challenge. Technically, you have perpetually held ownership through the corporate entity, but we must effectuate certain administrative adjustments to ensure your direct oversight. This process is anticipated to require an additional 2 weeks." "Understood. Please keep me apprised of developments." After concluding our conversation, I returned to the kitchen, a fresh cup of coffee accompanying me, and my thoughts turned towards Angela. She had been in Europe for 3 weeks, and I had received no communication from her. Not a single telephone call, no text messages, not even a solitary postcard. From her perspective, I had ceased to exist the very instant she secured the financial resources she so desperately desired, but I possessed a premonition that this situation was about to undergo a significant alteration. I resolved to visit the beach house. I boarded a public conveyance bound for the coast, traversing the very route that Robert and I had navigated on countless occasions. The dwelling stood precisely as I recalled it, a modest structure painted in a muted cream hue, its porch affording a panoramic vista of the ocean. The recent occupants had adorned the steps with potted flora, but beyond this minor addition, everything remained unchanged. I positioned myself on the curb directly opposite and observed it for the span of an hour. Memories surged forth of summer afternoons when Angela was a small child, her joyous sprints across the sand, her earnest endeavours in constructing sandcastles. Robert diligently manning the barbecue, preparing freshly grilled fish, while I artfully arranged salads within the confines of the kitchen. Angela subsequently introducing friends, then romantic partners, and finally Edward. All those cherished moments of happiness, which she had reduced to a mere commercial exchange. An elderly gentleman emerged from the dwelling and observed me seated there. He approached with an air of distinct curiosity. "Are you quite well, madam?" "Yes, thank you. I am merely reminiscing. I was acquainted with the previous proprietors. Indeed, I knew them exceedingly well. A most unfortunate turn of events. We were informed that the elderly lady was gravely ill and required an expedited sale. We considered it a remarkable acquisition, only to discover that the transaction was not legally binding. We were compelled to relinquish the property. Did you know them personally?" "No. Our dealings were conducted entirely through intermediaries, but we were advised that the daughter was managing all affairs due to the mother's incapacitation." "A most distressing predicament, if only you possessed a true comprehension of its profound sorrow," I reflected inwardly. "Well, I am gracious that you did not suffer financial detriment. Yes, fortunately, all matters have been resolved satisfactorily, although we must now recommence our search for alternative accommodation. We were quite enamored with this particular property." I departed the vicinity with a heavy heart. It was not solely the financial loss that inflicted pain, it was the unmitigated ease with which Angela had fabricated falsehoods regarding my person. She had concocted a narrative of my purported illness. She had exploited my supposed vulnerability to legitimize her avaricious actions. In her eyes, I was not an individual possessing emotions, but rather an impediment requiring removal. That evening, I contacted Mr. Peterson once more. "Mr. Peterson, I require your assistance with an additional matter. I wish to retrieve Robert's truck as well." "That will present a greater challenge, Mrs. Brooks. The vehicle was registered in your name, but your daughter possessed a power of attorney that authorized her to dispose of it." "How is such a thing conceivable?" "Apparently, you executed that power of attorney a few months subsequent to your husband's passing. Do you not recall?" And there it was, the precise moment when Angela had commenced her clandestine machinations. I possessed a faint recollection of affixing my signature to some documents she had presented to me, accompanied by her assertion that they were necessary for streamlining the funerary and inheritance proceedings. I had been so profoundly disoriented by grief that I had signed without adequate perusal. How utterly naive I had been. "I comprehend, Mr. Peterson. Is there any recourse to effectuate its retrieval?" "We can certainly endeavour to do so, but it will prove considerably more arduous. We would need to substantiate that you signed that power of attorney under duress, or through misrepresentation." "Let us proceed. I am determined to recover every single item they have misappropriated from me." Over the subsequent weeks, I cultivated a rather peculiar daily regimen. During the morning hours, I maintained the persona of the impoverished widow that everyone perceived me to be. I would venture out to procure essential provisions, engage in superficial conversations with my neighbours, and diligently uphold the facade. However, in the afternoons, I transformed into a shrewd businesswoman. I would meticulously study Robert's financial documents, consult with Mr. Peterson, and formulate my strategic maneuvers. I acquired knowledge concerning financial matters that I had never envisioned needing. I discovered that Robert possessed a far greater intellect than I had previously credited him with. Each of his investment decisions had been executed with meticulous foresight. The apartment complex where Angela resided, for instance, was not merely a source of rental income, it was situated in an area experiencing rapid economic appreciation. Furthermore, I unearthed evidence of considerable financial indebtedness on the part of Edward, Angela's spouse. He had incurred substantial loans, utilizing the apartment they inhabited as collateral, blissfully unaware that he was not the legal proprietor. Once the financial institutions discovered this discrepancy, he was destined to face severe repercussions. Mr. Peterson contacted me on a Friday, bearing significant news. Mrs. Brooks, all requisite legal documentation has been finalized. You now possess complete dominion over all your properties. I have also successfully facilitated the retrieval of Robert's truck. The purchaser, it transpired, was an acquaintance of mine, and upon presenting the circumstances, he readily agreed to its return in exchange for a modest financial consideration. Excellent work, Mr. Peterson. Now I require your assistance with one final undertaking. I wish for you to dispatch a formal communication to my daughter. What precisely is the nature of this communication? An official notice of eviction. A palpable silence ensued on the other end of the line. Mrs. Brooks, are you absolutely certain that this is your desired course of action? Completely and unequivocally certain. She deemed me inconsequential in her life. Now she is about to discover the true extent of my significance. I understand. Would you prefer I dispatch it to Europe? No, I wish for you to deliver it to her personally upon her return. I have a distinct premonition that this will occur in the very near future. My intuition proved accurate. That very same afternoon, Aurora arrived at my dwelling in a state of considerable haste, bearing the latest neighborhood gossip. Antonia, are you aware that Edward is experiencing significant financial difficulties with the bank? My brother-in-law, who is employed there, informed me that they are investigating certain loans he procured, utilizing their shared residence as collateral, but it has come to light that the apartment is not, in fact, his. Is that so? Indeed, and it appears Angela was entirely unaware of these proceedings. They are suggesting she will be compelled to return from Europe to address this intricate situation. What a remarkably complex predicament. Precisely. And the most disconcerting aspect is that Edward apparently misled her regarding the European business venture. There was no actual business, it was merely a ploy to evade the financial obligations he had accumulated here. Absolutely perfect. Everything was proceeding precisely as anticipated. Angela had placed her complete faith in Edward, had even severed ties with me for his sake, and now she was beginning to grasp that he was not the man she believed him to be. That evening, I sat on the veranda, a warm mug of tea in my hands, gazing up at the celestial bodies. Robert used to assert that the stars were the essence of individuals who had lived their lives to the fullest, watching over their loved ones from the heavens. If that were the case, then he was indeed up there, observing the flawless execution of his strategy. My dearest love, I whispered to the night sky, thank you. Thank you for continuing to protect me even beyond your passing. The following morning, Mr. Peterson contacted me at an early hour. Mrs. Brooks, he began, his voice carrying a note of urgency, I have some significant news. Your daughter has just arrived in the country. She is currently at the airport and appears to be alone. Alone? Yes, it seems Edward decided to remain in Europe. There are whispers of a substantial altercation between them. I see. And the letter? I will dispatch it today. She should receive it by tomorrow. I disconnected the call and remained standing in the kitchen, a complex blend of unease and excitement churning within me. After many weeks of meticulous and silent strategizing, the moment for the initial decisive action had finally arrived. Angela was about to discover that her mother was far from the helpless victim she had always perceived. Angela reached her apartment on Tuesday evening. Aurora, who seemed to possess an uncanny network of informants throughout the neighborhood, provided me with the details the next day. "Antonia," she informed me, "your daughter returned last night. I saw her enter the building with a single suitcase, but she appeared utterly dejected, pale with dark circles beneath her eyes as if she had been weeping throughout the entire journey. Completely and utterly alone, and something peculiar, Antonia, when the doorman inquired about her keys, she didn't possess them. She had to request that the superintendent grant her entry using the emergency copy." How fascinating. Edward was in possession of the keys, which strongly suggests he had no intention of returning. Alternatively, it's plausible that Angela uncovered something incriminating about him and fled. Regardless of the reason, my daughter was back, and she would soon receive my small welcoming gesture. Mr. Peterson contacted me again that very afternoon. "Mrs. Brooks," he reported, "the letter was delivered just an hour ago. The doorman confirmed that your daughter accepted it personally." "Excellent. And what time frame did we grant her?" 30 days to vacate the premises, in accordance with legal protocols. However, Mrs. Brooks, are you entirely certain you wish to proceed with this? She is, after all, your daughter. Mr. Peterson, my daughter effectively evicted me from my own residence with a mere 2-minute phone call. She disposed of my belongings without seeking my consent. She treated me with utter disdain. Now, she will learn that actions invariably carry consequences." "I comprehend. I simply wish to ensure that you had thoroughly considered every potential implication." "I have considered them, Mr. Peterson, every single one." That night, sleep eluded me. I lay awake, vividly picturing Angela's expression upon reading the letter. The initial bewilderment, then the outright disbelief, followed by sheer panic. She would likely dismiss it as an error, perhaps a misguided attempt at fraud. But upon attempting to verify, she would discover its absolute legality. The following day, as if anticipating my communication, the telephone rang precisely at 8 o'clock in the morning. It was Angela, her voice laced with desperation. "Mom! Mom, I need to speak with you urgently." "Good morning, my dear. How was your time in Europe?" "Mom, I don't have time for pleasantries right now. I received a most peculiar letter yesterday. It states that I must vacate my apartment within 30 days. It must be a mistake, surely. Do you have any knowledge of this?" "An eviction notice. How extraordinarily odd. From whom? From a company whose name I've never encountered. It's called— wait, let me locate the letter. Robert Investments Incorporated. Are you familiar with this entity?" Robert had chosen to utilize his own name for the company. How incredibly poetic. "No, my dear, I've never heard that name before. Are you certain the correspondence is legitimate?" "That is precisely what I am attempting to ascertain. Mum, I truly need your assistance. I am at a complete loss. Edward has abandoned me in Europe. He absconded with another woman, and now I return to this predicament. I simply cannot comprehend what is transpiring." There it was, the confirmation I had awaited. Edward had indeed deserted her, most likely when the financial resources dwindled or when he recognized the gravity of the legal entanglements back home. Poor Angela. She had willingly sacrificed her family for a man of no substance. "I am so sorry, my dear. Where are you at this moment?" "I'm at the apartment, but I have no idea for how much longer. Mum, may I come over to see you? I need to speak with someone. I have no one else." The irony was exquisitely perfect. Now that she found herself without the man for whom she had abandoned me, she suddenly remembered she possessed a mother. "Of course, my dear. Come over whenever you wish. I am here." I ended the call and caught my reflection in the mirror. I had to be flawless for this impending performance. I donned my most understated grey dress, secured my hair in a simple chignon, and meticulously practiced an expression of maternal concern tinged with resignation. When Angela arrived, she would behold precisely what she anticipated: a sorrowful, vulnerable widow, forsaken by her own daughter. Angela arrived approximately an hour later. Upon opening the door, I was struck by her visibly deteriorated appearance. She had lost weight, her eyes were deeply shadowed, and her once expensive attire seemed rumpled and unkempt. Her eyes were reddened from tears. "Mom," she uttered, and for a fleeting moment I believed she might embrace me, but she faltered, as if suddenly recalling the acrimonious nature of our parting. "Come in, my dear. Would you care for some coffee?" "Yes, please." We sat at the kitchen table, the very same one where I had pored over Robert's documents weeks prior. Angela appeared diminished in that chair, lost, much like she had when she was a child, confiding in me about her scholastic struggles. "Mum, I am so profoundly sorry for the way I left. I know I treated you abominably." "It is in the past, my dear." "No, it is not. I treated you terribly. I uttered dreadful things, and now," her voice cracked, "I am utterly alone." "What transpired with Edward?" "He left with a 25-year-old hotel waitress in Paris. It turns out there was never any business venture in Europe. It was all a fabrication. He merely wished to escape the debts he had incurred here, and to utilize the proceeds from the sale of your home to finance his escapade." "All the debts?" "Yes, Mum, so many debts. It appears he had been accumulating loans for years, using the apartment we resided in as collateral. But now I discover he was not the legal owner of the apartment. How can that be?" Here was my opportune moment. "I have no idea, my dear. Property matters are exceedingly complex. The predicament is that the banks are now pursuing me for his debts. They assert that because we were married, I am equally liable, and to compound matters, this eviction notice. Mum, I am at a loss. I possess no funds. I am unemployed. I have no place to reside." Tears began to stream down her face, genuine tears born of stark desperation. For an instant my maternal instincts stirred. I longed to embrace her, to offer solace, to assure her that everything would eventually be all right. But then I recalled the chilling detachment in her voice during that call from the doctor's office, the effortless manner in which she had discarded me, the way she had addressed me as if I were an unbearable burden. "Did you consult with a legal professional regarding the letter?" "I cannot afford a lawyer, Mum. We exhausted all our funds in Europe. Edward absconded with the meagre remainder when he departed with that woman." "So what is your intention?" I don't know. I was contemplating, perhaps I could reside with you for a period until I secure employment and can find a modest dwelling." There it was, the question I had been anticipating. After expelling me from my own home, after liquidating my possessions, after treating me as if I were beneath contempt, she now expected me to rescue her. She desired the pitiable widow she had constructed to extricate her from the repercussions of her own choices. "Naturally, my dear. This will always be your home?" Angela regarded me with an expression of surprise, as if she had not anticipated such an easy acquiescence. "Really, Mum? After all that has transpired?" "You are my daughter, Angela. That will never change." She rose, and this time she embraced me. It was a desperate clasp, akin to that of a drowning soul clinging to the only available support. I reciprocated the embrace, but it lacked the unreserved affection of before. Now my embrace was imbued with calculation, strategy. "Thank you, Mum. I promise I will find work soon. I won't be a burden." "Do not concern yourself with that presently. Rest, recuperate, and then we shall explore your options." Angela departed that afternoon to retrieve some belongings from her apartment. I remained in the kitchen reflecting on the effortless nature of my success. She had come to me precisely as I had envisioned, broken, desperate, with no alternative avenues, and most importantly, she suspected nothing. To her, I remained the forlorn, abandoned mother in need of her compassion. However, this was merely the initial phase of my meticulously crafted plan. Having her reside with me would provide the ideal opportunity for the subsequent stage. I intended to allow her to settle in, to feel secure, and to believe she had found sanctuary within my home. And then, at the precise moment she least expected it, I would enlighten her on the stark contrast between poverty born of deliberate choice and poverty resulting from dire consequences. That evening I contacted Mr. Peterson. "Mr. Peterson," I stated, "I require your assistance with another matter." "Please tell me, Mrs. Brooks. I wish for you to investigate Edward's debts thoroughly. I need to ascertain the exact amounts he owes, to whom and what legal avenues exist for me to absolve my daughter of these liabilities. That will necessitate time, but it is certainly achievable." "Excellent. And Mr. Peterson, I expect this investigation to remain an absolute secret. No one must be aware of my involvement." "Understood, Mrs. Brooks. May I inquire about your ultimate objective?" "My objective, Mr. Peterson, is quite straightforward. I intend to salvage my daughter, but first she must comprehend the true meaning of reaching the absolute lowest point." Upon concluding the call, I poured myself a glass of the exquisite wine that Robert had reserved for truly special occasions. It had been a considerable time since I had experienced a celebration of such magnitude. The game had commenced, and for the first time in months I held all the advantageous cards. Angela took up residence in my home the very next day. She arrived with 2 suitcases and a cardboard box, all that remained of her former life. I observed her as she unpacked in her former bedroom, the very same one she had occupied during her teenage years, and I could discern the palpable humiliation in every movement she made. She had transitioned from residing in a luxurious condominium to seeking refuge in her childhood chamber. "Mum, I discovered this in the apartment," she announced, presenting me with a manila envelope. "It was amongst Edward's possessions. It bears your name." It was another of Robert's envelopes. My heart quickened, but I maintained my composure. "My name? How peculiar." "Yes, look." She displayed the envelope. Indeed, my name was inscribed upon it in Robert's distinctive script, but this envelope differed from the one I had found in my dresser. This one was smaller, more recent. "Perhaps Edward found it amongst Dad's effects after he passed and neglected to give it to me," Angela conjectured. "It is possible. May I see it?" In her presence I opened the envelope. Within lay a brief letter and a small key. The letter read, "Antonia, if you are reading this after having received the primary correspondence, it signifies that our daughter is experiencing a period of profound difficulty. This key unlocks a safety deposit box at the Central Bank's downtown branch. The designation is 200 meters iron. Within you will find something that can assist you in helping her, but employ it with discernment. With eternal affection, Robert." Angela read the letter over my shoulder. A safety deposit box? Dad had a safety deposit box? I had no inkling. "Nor did I stated, a deliberate falsehood. "Your father never mentioned it to me." "Do you believe we should ascertain its contents?" "I am uncertain, my dear. Perhaps it is best to leave such matters undisturbed." "But, Mum, perhaps there is something significant within. Documents or, I don't know, perhaps something valuable that could be of assistance." The desperation in her voice was palpable. Angela was clinging to any semblance of hope for a resolution to her predicament, and I was content to let her cling a while longer before revealing the complete truth. "Very well," I conceded after a carefully calculated pause. "We can go tomorrow." That evening, Angela and I shared dinner together for the first time in months. She had taken it upon herself to cook, attempting to be of service, but the meal was tinged with an undercurrent of guilt and desperation. She elaborated on the events that had transpired in Europe, each narrative more distressing than the last. Edward lied about absolutely everything, Mum, not just the business, but the debts as well. I believed he only owed a minor sum, but it turns out he is indebted to the tune of over $100,000. And the most distressing aspect is that he utilized my name for some of the loans without my knowledge. How can that possibly be? He forged my signature. When I married him, I provided him with certain documents to manage our joint account. I never envisioned he would employ them for such a purpose. Do you possess any means of substantiating your lack of awareness? I am unsure. It is also exceedingly complex. The banks contend that because we were married, I am liable for all his debts, regardless. And the divorce? I haven't the faintest idea where Edward is at this moment. He has simply vanished. His phone is disconnected. He does not respond to emails. Nothing. It is as if he evaporated. Perfect. Edward had absconded like the vermin he had always been, leaving Angela to confront the ramifications of her actions independently. In a way, he had performed a service for me. Now, my daughter was experiencing precisely what I had felt when he abandoned me. Betrayal by an individual in whom she had placed her absolute trust. I am so sorry, my dear. I was unaware the situation was quite so dire. Neither was I, Mum. I truly believed Edward loved me, that we were destined to build a future together, but it appears I was merely a convenient means for him to acquire funds and documentation. Angela began to weep once more. How could I have been so foolish? How did I fail to recognize his true nature? It was tempting to inform her that I had perceived the warning signs from the outset, that I had attempted to caution her that Edward never appeared entirely trustworthy, but doing so would have shattered my carefully constructed facade of a compassionate and vulnerable mother. Love can indeed be a blinding force sometimes, my dear. Do not place blame upon yourself. But, Mom, I have not only ruined my own life, I have irrevocably damaged yours as well. I treated you appallingly. I appropriated your home, your vehicle, your possessions, all to bestow upon a man who abandoned me at the first available opportunity. Now we are two destitute women endeavoring to subsist because of my actions. It is in the past, Angela. We will manage. No, it is not. Now we are both in dire straits due to my errors. You have forfeited all that Dad bequeathed to you, and I have lost my marriage and my future. We are two impoverished women struggling to survive. If only she knew, I mused, that at this very moment I possessed more wealth than she could possibly fathom, that I was the proprietor of the very building where she resided, that I could resolve all her dilemmas with a solitary telephone call. But the opportune moment had not yet arrived. The following day we proceeded to the bank. Angela was visibly anxious yet hopeful. I maintained my performance as a bewildered widow with limited understanding of financial matters. The bank employee escorted us to the safety deposit boxes, verified my identification, and opened box number 247. Inside lay an array of jewels, a breathtaking collection of rings, necklaces, bracelets, and earrings. I recognized some pieces as cherished heirlooms from Robert's family. Others were entirely unfamiliar to me. Accompanying them was a letter detailing the provenance of each item and its estimated worth. Angela gasped. Mom, this must be worth a king's ransom. You believe so? Yes, observe this emerald set against this pearl necklace. Mum, Dad safeguarded a veritable treasure here. According to Robert's letter, the jewels were valued at approximately $200,000. It was a considerable sum, yet it paled in comparison to my overall assets. It was akin to discovering a few loose coins beneath the sofa when one possesses $1 million in savings. What shall we do with this, Mum? I am uncertain, my dear. These are cherished family mementos. But, Mom, we could potentially sell some of the pieces. With this money, you could reclaim your beach house, and I could begin to address some of Edward's debts. There it was again. Even upon discovering something of significant value, Angela's immediate inclination was to devise a strategy for resolving the very problems Edward had created. She had yet to learn her lesson. Are you absolutely certain you wish to utilize your father's legacy to settle Edward's debts? What other recourse do I have, Mum? If I do not remit some payment soon, the banks will initiate foreclosure proceedings on everything I possess. And technically, I own nothing. Everything was registered under Edward's name. Reflect carefully, my dear. Once you divest yourself of these jewels, you will be unable to reclaim them. I understand, but what alternative is there? I cannot secure employment with these pending legal claims. No employer would consider hiring someone entangled in such a multitude of legal complications. We transported the jewels back to our residence. Angela spread them out across the kitchen table, meticulously examining each piece, contemplating which could be sold and which could be retained. It was a painful spectacle to witness her reducing decades of familial history to mere entries on a spreadsheet. Mum, I believe I can obtain $180,000 for the jewels, she announced one afternoon, tallying the bills spread across the kitchen table. It is less than I had anticipated, but it should suffice to address the most pressing debts. Are you certain you wish to proceed with this? I have no other choice. If I do not make a payment soon, they will seize everything. Even this house could be jeopardized if they establish any form of legal connection to the properties. The irony of the situation was profound. Angela was concerned about losing a house that rightfully belonged to me, settling the debts of a man who had abandoned her with funds derived from jewels that had once belonged to the very same man who had amassed the fortune that could have rescued her. And how do you propose to determine which debts to prioritize? I consulted with a complimentary financial advisor at the bank. She advised me to focus on debts secured by collateral, as those are the ones that pose the greatest risk of impacting property ownership or leading to immediate foreclosure. Angela had demonstrated remarkable growth over these past few weeks. The woman who had disposed of my belongings without consultation was now assiduously scrutinizing every financial decision. The hardships had rendered her more responsible, yet also more vulnerable. That evening, as she was meticulously organizing the debt-related documents on the table, I received a telephone call from Mr. Peterson. Mrs. Brooks, he informed me, I have compiled a comprehensive report regarding Edward's financial obligations. The situation is considerably more dire than initially perceived. How much more dire? He is indebted to various financial institutions for in excess of $200,000 and additionally owes funds to private lenders. What is of greater concern is that he utilized falsified documents bearing your daughter's signature for a portion of these loans. This means Angela is legally accountable. It is an intricate situation. If we can conclusively prove her lack of knowledge, it may be possible to extricate her from some of these debts. However, it will undoubtedly be a protracted and costly legal battle. What would be the approximate expense for a competent attorney specializing in such cases? Likely $50,000, and there is no guarantee of a favorable outcome. I understand. And what if she simply settles the debts? If she possesses the requisite funds, that would represent the most expeditious resolution. However, I highly doubt she has access to such a sum. Mr. Peterson, I wish for you to prepare all the necessary documentation to facilitate my daughter's release from these financial obligations, but refrain from informing her of this action at this juncture. You will be paying Mrs. Brooks. I will undertake whatever measures are necessary to safeguard my daughter, but this must be handled with utmost precision and discretion. Upon concluding the call, I discovered Angela in the living room, gazing at the jewels with a somber expression. She appeared lost, like a child who had inadvertently broken her most cherished toy and was unsure how to repair it. "What is occupying your thoughts, my dear?" "About Dad? About how profoundly disappointed he would be in me if he could witness the trajectory my life has taken." "Your father loved you dearly, Angela. He would undoubtedly understand." "No, Mom. He instilled in me the importance of responsibility, of valuing family, of eschewing selfishness, and I have done the precise opposite. I abandoned my mother for a man who ultimately proved to be a deceiver. I bartered away my family's cherished memories for financial gain. I have undone all that he painstakingly constructed." For the first time since her return, a genuine note of remorse resonated in her voice. It was not merely a lamentation of the consequences of her actions, but a sincere acknowledgement that she had committed a transgression of a moral nature. "People err, my dear. The paramount concern is to derive lessons from those mistakes." "But how do I learn from this, Mum? How do I rectify the damage I have inflicted?" There it was, the question I had been patiently awaiting. Angela was finally prepared to confront the unvarnished truth about her choices and their ensuing ramifications. It was not yet my moment to unveil my ultimate strategy. First, I had to allow her to reach the absolute nadir. The subsequent days proved pivotal for my scheme. Angela elected to liquidate the majority of her jewelry collection, retaining solely the engagement ring Robert had bestowed upon me and a delicate locket that had once belonged to her grandmother. I observed her as she prepared for excursions to the jewelers, researching prevailing market values and negotiating with potential buyers. Witnessing her commercial dealings was an arduous experience, yet it was imperative for her to grasp the true gravity of her choices. "Mum, I secured $180,000 for the jewels," she informed me one afternoon, meticulously counting the currency on the kitchen counter. "It's insufficient to cover my most pressing obligations. Are you absolutely certain you wish to proceed with this?" "I have no alternative. If I fail to remit a portion of these payments imminently, they will initiate foreclosure proceedings on everything. Even this residence could be jeopardized if they establish any legal entanglement with the properties." How remarkably ironic the circumstances were. Angela was preoccupied with the potential loss of a dwelling that belonged to me, while simultaneously settling the debts incurred by a man who had deceived her. "And how do you intend to determine which debts to prioritize?" I inquired. I consulted with a complimentary financial advisor at the bank. She advised me to address the obligations secured by collateral first, as those pose the greatest risk to property or can result in immediate foreclosure. Angela had undergone a profound transformation in these past few weeks. The individual who had once disposed of my possessions without my consent was now assiduously engaged in responsible fiscal management. "I have some significant news," a voice announced. "We've managed to locate Edward." "And where is he?" "He is in Paris, precisely as your daughter surmised. But here's the truly compelling aspect. He is actively pursuing French residency through a sham marriage with that young woman your daughter mentioned." "A sham marriage?" "Indeed. Apparently the young woman requires legal status, and he seeks a means to remain in Europe without facing deportation. However, the most crucial development is that we've unearthed evidence confirming he deliberately falsified your daughter's documentation with the explicit intent of absconding from the country." "This implies Angela can be absolved of these financial obligations." "Precisely. With this evidence, we can demonstrate fraud and coercion. Your daughter will bear no financial responsibility for Edward's clandestine actions." It was flawless. I had discovered a method to extricate Angela from all her debts, legally, without her suspecting my capacity to facilitate it financially. Mr. Peterson, I wish for you to commence the legal proceedings without delay. Do not inform my daughter of this development yet. I want the entire process concluded before I break the news to her. I do not wish to engender false hope. Understood. This endeavour will require approximately 3 weeks, perhaps a month. Excellent. As I concluded the call, Angela regarded me with a quizzical expression. Who was that, Mum? A representative from a utility company inquiring about Mrs. Davis. Our neighbour down the street. They had the wrong telephone number. Deception had become effortless. With each passing day, I grew more accustomed to the dual existence I was leading. On one front, I was the impoverished, forsaken mother Angela believed me to be. On the other, I was a woman of considerable means, discreetly orchestrating my daughter's salvation and her moral development. Over the ensuing fortnight, I observed Angela, grappling with decisions entirely alien to her former experience. How to make meagre funds suffice for sustenance, how to negotiate with creditors, and the challenges of seeking employment when one's credit history is irrevocably tarnished. It was a harsh yet indispensable tutelage. Mum, I attended 3 job interviews today, she reported one evening, returning with swollen feet and an exhausted countenance. 2 of them informed me they cannot offer employment due to the outstanding legal encumbrances. The 3rd proposed a part-time evening position cleaning offices. Are you going to accept it? I have no other recourse. The remuneration is quite meagre, but it is preferable to nothing, and I can work in the evenings, allowing me to continue my search for something more suitable during the day. To witness my daughter, who had enjoyed a life of comfort for over 4 decades, preparing to undertake nocturnal cleaning duties, was profoundly heartbreaking. Yet it also instilled within me a sense of immense pride. She was finally confronting reality, devoid of any expectation of external intervention to resolve her predicaments. Are you certain you can manage such strenuous physical exertion? I will have to adapt. I cannot continue to be a burden to you, Mum. It is already difficult enough that you are permitting me to reside here rent-free. This is your home, Angela. No, Mum, this is your residence, and I am here due to your benevolence, but I will not exploit it indefinitely. One evening, while Angela was engaged in her inaugural cleaning shift, Aurora paid a visit. She joined me in the kitchen, partaking in tea and perusing the framed family photographs adorning the walls. Antonia, I must inquire about something. Did you anticipate Angela's return under these circumstances? What precisely do you mean? Well, when she departed, she appeared so self-assured, so imperious. She spoke of the grand life she was destined to lead in Europe, of Edward's remarkable success, and now she has returned, utterly dejected, working as a cleaner and residing with you once more. Life presents many unforeseen turns, Aurora. However, there is more to it. I've been observing Angela these past few days, and she appears different, not merely sorrowful, but humbled, as if she has absorbed a vital lesson. Aurora had consistently possessed a keen perception. And what do you believe she has learned? I believe she has come to appreciate the intrinsic value of that which she previously took for granted, such as possessing a mother's unwavering affection. Perhaps? Aurora, may I confide something in you? When Angela departed and treated you so deplorably, many of us assumed you would never extend forgiveness, yet here you are caring for her once more, offering her refuge when she has nowhere else to turn. She is my daughter, Aurora. Yes, but not every maternal figure would act as you have, especially after enduring such mistreatment. If only Aurora knew the complete truth, that I possessed the means to resolve all of Angela's predicaments, yet I was deliberately prolonging her distress to ensure the lesson was thoroughly absorbed. Do you believe I am acting appropriately? I believe you are acting as a good mother would. but I also believe Angela needs to fully comprehend the extent of what she forfeited when she abandoned you. She needs to value you not merely as the maternal figure who rescues her from dire straits, but as the resilient woman who meticulously constructed a stable existence over 45 years. She needs to respect you, not simply depend on you. Aurora had precisely articulated the crux of my entire strategy. I did not desire Angela's return stemming from desperation. I yearned for her to return out of genuine esteem and a matured sense of love. And how do you envision that transpiring? I believe it is already unfolding. I have observed her these past few days, Antonia. The manner in which she addresses you now is entirely transformed. She is no longer the daughter who dictates commands or perceives you as a burden. She is now an adult woman who expresses sincere gratitude for having a mother like you. That evening, upon Angela's return from her employment, I witnessed her arrival, weary yet imbued with a newfound sense of dignity. She had earned those meagre earnings through her own exertion, and that held considerable significance for her. How was your first day? Challenging, but not as arduous as I had anticipated. The other ladies I work with were exceptionally supportive. One of them, Mrs. Johnson, shared some effective cleaning techniques. Mrs. Johnson? Yes, she is 60 years old and has been cleaning offices for 2 decades. She recounted that she commenced this work after her husband left her with 3 young children. She acknowledges it's not the career she envisioned, but it has afforded her independence and self-respect. She sounds like a remarkably insightful individual. Indeed, she imparted a statement that resonated deeply with me. She explained that there are 2 distinct categories of individuals who find themselves in this line of work. Those who are present because they never had opportunities, and those who are present because they squandered the opportunities they were afforded. And which category did you identify with? I conveyed the unvarnished truth that I possessed every conceivable opportunity: a loving family, a secure home, an inheritance, and I dissipated it all by adhering to a man of no consequence. And her response? She chuckled and remarked, "Well, my dear, at least you possess a clear understanding of why you are here. That places you at a considerable advantage over many others." Angela poured herself a glass of water and joined me at the table. "Mum, there is something I need you to understand. These past few weeks have been the most arduous of my existence, yet also the most profoundly significant. Why? Because I have finally apprehended what truly holds value. It is not monetary wealth. It is not residing in the most opulent dwelling. It is not the pursuit of impressing others. It is the presence of individuals who genuinely cherish you, who remain steadfast when all else crumbles." Angela, no. Please allow me to finish. You have every justification to resent me for my actions towards you. I abandoned you when you were most in need. I appropriated all that your father bequeathed to you. I treated you as though you were an inconvenience, and now I reappear, expecting your absolution and your care. I have already forgiven you, my dear. However, I have not forgiven myself, and I shall not until I demonstrate that I have truly undergone a transformation, that I have learned from my errors. Mr. Peterson contacted me the following morning. "Mrs. Brooks, I bear excellent news. The legal proceedings are nearing completion. We are poised to extricate your daughter from all of Edward's financial obligations." The time had arrived. After weeks of observing Angela's struggles, her labours, and her introspection regarding her missteps, the moment had finally presented itself to reveal that she had never been alone, that someone had consistently and discreetly watched over her. "Mr. Peterson, I wish for you to arrange a meeting. It is time for my daughter to be apprised of the entire truth." Mr. Peterson scheduled the meeting for Friday morning at his establishment. I informed Angela that I had secured an appointment with an attorney who could assist with her legal entanglements, but I refrained from elaborating on the specifics. She agreed to attend, albeit with trepidation regarding the consultation fees. Mum, I cannot afford a lawyer. I barely possess sufficient funds to cover essential expenditures. Do not concern yourself with that at present, my dear. Let us simply ascertain what he has to convey. We arrived at Mr. Peterson's office punctually. Angela had donned her finest attire, which now appeared somewhat ill-fitting on her diminished frame. She appeared anxious, fidgeting with her hands, anticipating yet another piece of disheartening news amidst her seemingly endless cascade of troubles. Mr. Peterson greeted us with his customary professional demeanour. Mrs. Brooks, Miss Brooks, thank you for your presence. Thank you for receiving us, Angela responded. Although I must caution you, my financial situation is exceedingly complex, and I likely cannot afford substantial fees. That is precisely what we intend to discuss, Mr. Peterson stated, exchanging a significant glance with me. But first, I require you to review these documents. Mr. Peterson presented Angela with a substantial folder. She opened it and began to read, her expression gradually transitioning from bewilderment to astonishment. I do not comprehend. These documents indicate that Edward forged my signature, that there is evidence of fraud, and that I am not liable for these debts. That is correct. We have been meticulously investigating your case for the past several weeks. We have amassed sufficient evidence to substantiate that you are a victim of identity fraud. But how is this possible? Who financed this investigation? I possess no such financial resources. Mr. Peterson's gaze shifted towards me. This was my pivotal moment. Angela, there is something I must reveal to you. What is it, Mum? I took a deliberate breath. After weeks of feigned pretense, I was finally poised to disclose the unvarnished truth. Your father bequeathed to me considerably more than you were aware of, substantially more. What do you mean, Mr. Peterson? Kindly present the other documents. Mr. Peterson retrieved a second folder and handed it to Angela. This time, the contents comprised property deeds, bank statements, investment certificates, the entirety of the fortune Robert had amassed in secrecy. Angela read in silence for several minutes, her face a tableau of evolving emotions, confusion, disbelief, shock, and finally dawning comprehension. Mum, this indicates you are the proprietor of the building where I resided. Yes. And that you possess other properties, bank accounts, investments. Yes. This implies that when I sold the beach house, it was my property and the transaction was fraudulent. I have already reclaimed it. Angela stared intently at the papers, attempting to absorb the overwhelming influx of information. How long have you been aware of this? Since the very day you contacted me from the doctor's office, you knew all of this when I returned from Europe seeking assistance? Yes. You were aware you could resolve all my problems when you witnessed me weeping each night? Yes. A prolonged, charged silence ensued. Angela closed the folders and met my gaze directly. Why, Mum? Why did you permit me to suffer when you possessed the means to aid me? This was the question I had eagerly anticipated for weeks. Because you needed to acquire a lesson that could not be imparted through any other avenue. What lesson? You needed to comprehend the true worth of that which you had squandered, the value of family, of respect, of responsibility. When you abandoned me, it was not merely financial assets you absconded with. It was my dignity. It was my love. It was my trust. Angela's eyes welled with tears, yet these were not the tears of self-pity that had marked her recent weeks. These were tears born of profound understanding. I abandoned you when you needed me most. Yes, I treated you with utter contempt. Yes, and you rescued me nonetheless. Yes, but not in the manner you anticipated. I did not rescue you by providing funds so you could perpetuate the same errors. I rescued you by permitting you to descend to your lowest point so that you might learn to salvage yourself. Mr. Peterson discreetly interjected. Miss Brooks, your mother has fully indemnified all legal expenses to absolve you of Edward's indebtedness. She has also successfully reacquired all properties that were unlawfully sold. You are entirely free of any legal entanglements. And the cleaning job I secured? You may resign if you wish, I stated. However, I sincerely hope you do not, because that position is imparting something you never learned when life was effortless. It is teaching you the value of your own labor, the dignity inherent in honest work, and the paramount importance of cherishing every dollar you earn. Angela dabbed at her eyes and regarded me with an expression I had not witnessed in years. It was not the look of a daughter dependent upon her mother, but the gaze of an adult woman who held another woman in high esteem. Do you forgive me, Mom? I forgave you a considerable time ago, my dear. The pertinent question is, can you forgive yourself? I do not know if I am capable. I committed unforgivable acts. People err, Angela. The crucial factor is our subsequent actions after acknowledging those errors. Mr. Peterson graciously granted us a few moments of privacy in his office. Angela and I sat in quiet contemplation, processing the magnitude of the revelations. Mum, I need you to understand something. Even if you did not possess all this wealth, even if you were genuinely the impoverished widow I believed you to be, I would have learned the same lesson. And what lesson is that? That there is nothing more precious than having someone who loves you. During these past few weeks, the sole factor that sustained my sanity was the knowledge that I had a home with you, that regardless of the extent to which I had jeopardized my life, you remained my mother. That sentiment will never falter, Angela. I understand. However, I also recognize that I can never again take that affection for granted. I must earn it daily through respect, through gratitude, through tangible actions, not merely through pronouncements. We departed Mr. Peterson's office with our relationship fundamentally redefined. We were no longer merely mother and daughter bound by lineage and habit. We were two adult women who had consciously chosen one another after enduring an ordeal of unimaginable difficulty. The subsequent weeks were dedicated to reconstruction, though not in the manner Angela had initially envisioned. Despite her newfound awareness of my substantial resources, capable of rectifying all her difficulties, she resolved to retain her nocturnal cleaning position. Mum, I must see this through to its conclusion, she informed me one afternoon as she prepared for work. I cannot simply revert to a life of comfort as though nothing untoward had occurred. Are you certain? You are not obligated to impose perpetual self-punishment. It is not a form of penance. It is a method of remembering who I once was and who I aspire to become now. I observed her don her work uniform, an action that would have been unthinkable mere months prior, when she resided in the opulent condominium with Edward. However, there was a discernible alteration in her posture, in her very bearing. She was no longer the shattered individual who had arrived at my doorstep in tears. She was someone who had discovered a profound sense of dignity in honest labor. Aurora paid me a visit that afternoon, a recurring ritual she had maintained every few days since Angela's return. Antonia, there are some rather peculiar rumors circulating within the neighborhood. What sort of rumors, Aurora? People are suggesting that you are not as impoverished as we had all presumed. Someone observed Angela emerging from a remarkably upscale legal office downtown, and subsequently saw her settling all her outstanding debts at the bank. Individuals do tend to talk extensively, Aurora. Yes, but they are also commenting that you have reclaimed your beach house and that, by some means, you have resolved all of Angela's legal predicaments. That would necessitate a considerable expenditure of funds, Antonia. Aurora, who knew me intimately, could not be easily misled. And what specifically do you wish to ascertain? I wish to know if my confidante of 40 years has been dissembling about her financial circumstances. I poured myself a cup of tea and settled into a chair opposite her. The time had come for unreserved honesty with another individual. Robert bequeathed to me considerably more than anyone realized, Aurora. Far more. How much more? Sufficiently so that Angela and I will never again experience financial concern. Aurora remained silent for a moment, processing the revelation. And why did you maintain the pretense of hardship for all these months? Because Angela needed to acquire a lesson that could not be imparted through any other avenue. I recounted the entire narrative, Angela's callously dismissive telephone conversation, my strategy of silent retribution, the arduous weeks of observing her descent to rock bottom, and ultimately the dramatic unveiling within Mr. Peterson's office. Antonia, that is both brilliant and profoundly distressing simultaneously. Distressing? Yes, because you allowed your own daughter to endure hardship when you possessed the immediate capacity to intervene. But also brilliant, because I comprehend your rationale. You do? Yes, Angela needed to comprehend the true value of what she had lost. Had you simply provided her with monetary resources to resolve her dilemmas, she would have concluded that there would always be someone to extricate her from the repercussions of her ill-considered choices. Precisely. But Antonia, did it not cause you pain to witness her suffering? Every single day. Every night I observed her weeping. Every morning I saw her rise to commence her work, weary and defeated. However, I understood that if I intervened too promptly, she would not have absorbed the full extent of the lesson. And do you believe she has internalized it? Observe for yourself. Angela is cognizant that she now has access to ample funds to live comfortably, yet she has elected to retain her employment. She is aware she could relocate to more desirable accommodations, yet she has chosen to remain here with me. She understands she is no longer burdened by debt, yet she is utilizing her personal savings to assist other women in comparable predicaments. She is assisting other women? Yes, she has forged friendships with the ladies she works alongside, and is dedicating a portion of the funds she has earned from office cleaning to aid a colleague who is experiencing financial difficulties in covering her son's daycare expenses. Aurora offered a gentle smile. This is not the Angela who departed for Europe. No, she is not. This Angela comprehends that wealth is a means, not an ultimate objective. She understands that dignity is derived from labor and respect, not from material possessions. That evening, as Angela returned from her employment, she found me engrossed in reading in the living room. Mum, I have something significant to share with you. Today, Mrs. Johnson inquired if I was the daughter of the affluent lady residing on the northern perimeter of town. And what was your response? I confirmed this, stating that you possess sufficient wealth for me to forego employment. And do you know what she subsequently inquired? She asked why I was still working. Consequently, I explained that it was because I need to demonstrate to myself that I am capable of standing independently. And her reply? She chuckled and remarked, "My dear, that is the fundamental distinction between being wealthy and merely appearing wealthy. Your mother has imparted to you the knowledge of how to be genuinely affluent. Mrs. Johnson is exceptionally astute. Indeed, and she facilitated my understanding of a crucial point. The essence lies not in the quantity of one's possessions, but in the manner of their utilization and one's relationship with them." Angela sat beside me on the sofa. "Mum, I want you to be aware of a decision I have made. I intend to continue residing here with you, but not as a daughter who has returned to her parental home. I wish to remain here as an adult woman who has consciously chosen to share her life with her mother. And what is the difference in that distinction? The difference lies in the fact that I will contribute my share towards the household expenses. I will assist in the upkeep of this residence, and I will approach this relationship as a partnership between two independent women who hold mutual affection and respect for one another. Angela, you really don't have to. Yes, Mother, I truly do. My wish is for our connection to be profoundly different from its past. Before, I was a daughter who simply took your love and all you did for granted. Now, I aspire to be a woman who cherishes and actively nurtures the most significant relationship in her life. And your career aspirations? I intend to continue working, though not necessarily cleaning offices indefinitely. My goal is to return to my studies. I want to equip myself to contribute something more meaningful to the world. However, I want to progress incrementally, earning each advancement through my own efforts. Do you have a clear idea of what you wish to pursue academically? Absolutely. I plan to study social work. These recent weeks have starkly illuminated how many individuals endure immense hardship without any form of support. I am driven to leverage the resources we possess to assist other women navigating similar challenges to those I have overcome. It was a perfect resolution. Angela had not only come to appreciate what she possessed, but had discovered a path to transform her ordeal into something constructive. And what of Edward? Mr. Peterson informed me of his apprehension in France concerning a fraudulent marriage. He will face deportation shortly, but honestly, Mother, it no longer concerns me. That chapter of my life has definitively closed. You feel no lingering resentment? None whatsoever. Edward inadvertently did me a great service. Had he not abandoned and deceived me, I would likely never have reached my lowest point. And without experiencing that nadir, I would never have learned to genuinely value what truly matters. That evening, for the first time in many months, I retired to bed with a profound sense of peace. My strategy had unfolded flawlessly. Angela had not only absorbed the necessary lessons, but had emerged from the experience as a more resilient, astute, and empathetic individual. Robert would have been immensely proud. 6 months elapsed, and our lives had attained a novel equilibrium neither of us could have possibly envisioned. Angela concluded her social work studies with exemplary marks, and I resolved to allocate a portion of our resources towards establishing a foundation dedicated to aiding women experiencing domestic violence and financial abandonment. Mother, the university correspondence has arrived, Angela announced one morning, entering the kitchen with an envelope in her hand. I have been accepted into the master's program. I commence next semester. However, Mother, I want you to be aware that I intend to fund my education with my personal savings. I have diligently accumulated funds from my employment at the city. While the remuneration is not substantial, she had learned to subsist on essentials and to value every earned dollar. Are you certain? We can comfortably cover the expenses for the master's program. I understand, but it is imperative for me to accomplish this independently. It is an intrinsic part of who I have become. Aurora visited that afternoon, a ritual she had maintained every Friday for the past several months. She had become a trusted confidant to both of us, observing our metamorphosis with keen interest. Antonia, I must admit something to you, she stated, pouring herself a second cup of tea. Initially, I perceived your approach to Angela as quite severe. And what are your present thoughts? I now believe you are the most sagacious mother I have ever encountered. Observe your daughter. Truly, look at her. It was undeniably true. The Angela now present in the living room, engrossed in her exam preparations, was a vastly different person from the one who had departed for Europe mere months prior. This Angela possessed an inner serenity, a self-assurance rooted in her own accomplishments rather than material possessions. Did you know I encountered Angela at the grocery store yesterday? She was purchasing provisions for a family she is assisting through her volunteer work. She had not informed me, and when I inquired why she was utilizing her personal funds instead of the allocated government budget, she explained that some acts of kindness transcend quantifiable official expenditures. That evening, Angela and I shared dinner on the veranda, a custom that had become a cherished tradition. It was our dedicated time to discuss our days, conceptualize future plans, and simply relish each other's companionship. "Mother, I received a rather peculiar letter today," she remarked while meticulously slicing her salad. "From whom?" "From Edward." My muscles instinctively tensed. "Edward? He corresponded with you?" "From where?" "From a correctional facility in France. Apparently, he received a 2-year sentence for fraudulent matrimony. In his correspondence, he expresses profound regret for his past actions and seeks my absolution." "And how do you feel about this development?" "To be perfectly candid, I feel nothing. No anger, no sorrow, no inclination towards retribution. It is as if that particular episode of my life transpired decades ago, not mere months past. Do you intend to reply?" "No, not out of animosity, but because there is simply nothing to convey. The version of Angela who married him no longer exists. This current Angela has no common ground with him." I was struck by the profound maturity evident in her voice. The woman seated before me had cultivated an inner fortitude, forged from confronting the depths of despair and subsequently rising independently. "Do you comprehend the ultimate lesson this entire experience has imparted, Mother? What is it? That genuine affection is not found in words that merely echo what one desires to hear. True love is that which imparts the essential lessons one requires, even when those lessons are painful. It is an arduous truth to internalize, yet it is undeniably essential." Edward presented me with precisely what I wished to hear. He made me feel exceptionally valued. He persuaded me that I was entitled to a life of opulence without exertion. You, however, have instilled in me the understanding that true prosperity is cultivated through diligent effort, mutual respect, and authentic connections. That evening, after Angela had retired to her room to study, I found myself seated alone on the veranda, gazing at the celestial expanse and contemplating Robert. I had made him a solemn promise to safeguard our daughter, and I finally felt I had honored that pledge in the most profound manner. My guardianship was not expressed through financial provision when she was in need. It was manifested in empowering her to achieve self-sufficiency. I did not rescue her by resolving her predicaments. I rescued her by allowing her the autonomy to learn to surmount them herself. The following day was a Sunday, and our shared itinerary involved a visit to the beach house, marking our inaugural return since its repossession. Angela had previously expressed a reluctance to visit, citing a need for introspection and processing of recent events. "Are you prepared?" I inquired as we settled into the truck. "I believe so." The journey was characterized by a comfortable silence. Upon our arrival, Angela paused for a moment, standing by the truck, her gaze fixed upon the dwelling where countless cherished family summers had been spent. "It appears precisely as it always was," she observed at length. "Some things remain constant while others undergo transformation. I am no longer the same individual who divested myself of this property." We entered the residence together. The interior was immaculately maintained and orderly, precisely as Robert and I had preserved it for years. Angela traversed each room, her fingertips brushing against the furnishings, and her eyes lingering on the framed family portraits adorning the walls. "Mother, I wish to offer an apology. You have already expressed your remorse, my dear. No, I specifically wish to apologize concerning this very house, not merely for its sale, but for reducing our collective familial memories to a mere commercial transaction. You are forgiven." This dwelling embodies 40 years of shared family summers, of birthday celebrations, of Christmases. Your father constructed that porch with his own hands. You cultivated that garden. I learned to navigate the water at that very beach, and I transmuted all of it into currency to finance the escapades of a man devoid of character. She settled onto the sofa, a familiar spot where Robert would often recline on Sunday mornings, engrossed in his reading. Do you comprehend what causes me the most profound distress? What? That at the time of its sale I felt absolutely nothing. It was merely another asset. Now, standing here once more, I can sense Dad in every nook and cranny. I can distinctly recall his laughter, inhale the aroma of his morning coffee, visualize his reading spectacles resting on the table. He is present here, Angela. He has always been, I understand, and I also recognize his pride in how you have navigated this entire ordeal. We dedicated the entirety of the day to the house, engaging in shared culinary endeavors, household upkeep, and minor rectifications. It felt akin to a ceremonial ritual of rediscovery, not solely of the locale, but of the core values it represented. As the sun began its descent, we convened on the veranda that Robert had meticulously constructed, our gazes directed towards the vast ocean. Mother, I have a proposition. What is it? I propose we transform this residence into a temporary haven for women escaping situations of domestic abuse, a sanctuary where they can find refuge while embarking on the journey of reconstructing their lives. It was an impeccably suited proposal. Robert would have undoubtedly embraced the concept of his beloved beach house serving as a beacon of hope for other families. I believe that is a truly beautiful notion, my dear. We can allocate a portion of the Foundation's financial reserves to its upkeep, and I can oversee the program's implementation through my professional capacity. Are you certain you wish to repurpose our familial sanctuary in such a manner, Mother? The most profound sanctuaries are those that are shared. Dad always espoused the belief that a house transcends its physical structure to become a true home when it extends its embrace to others in need of affection. He was unequivocally correct. Robert had consistently demonstrated remarkable generosity with our home, extending invitations to relatives, friends, and neighbours who sought a place of respite. We returned home that evening with a newly conceived project and a profoundly revitalized relationship. We were no longer merely mother and daughter bound by obligation or necessity. We had evolved into two women who had consciously elected to forge a shared existence founded upon mutual affection, profound respect, and a unified objective. That night, before succumbing to sleep, I communed with Robert in silent contemplation. We have accomplished it, my dearest love. Our daughter has finally grasped the essence of what truly holds significance, and for the first time since his passing, I felt his response echo within me. I always had faith in you. You are both far more formidable than you realize. Justice had manifested not as retribution, but as a profound educational experience, not as a punitive measure, but as a catalyst for personal transformation. And in the culmination, we had both acquired something immeasurably more precious than mere wealth. We had cultivated an authentic bond, anchored by an unshakable foundation that no future adversity could possibly undermine. Did you find my narrative engaging? And from which city are you experiencing this story? Let us engage in a dialogue in the comments section. Should this story resonate with you, your support through a super thanks would be greatly appreciated, enabling me to continue delivering similar narratives. My sincere gratitude for your exceptionally kind support. I eagerly anticipate your reflections on the story. On the screen, you will discover 2 additional life sagas that I highly recommend. My channel offers a wealth of further content. Kindly remember to subscribe. I eagerly anticipate our next encounter in a forthcoming life story, with heartfelt affection and utmost respect.